Okay, it's great to be here, and I also hope that it will be some time at the end for some questions. Posthumanism by itself, as we were already hearing over the last few talks, has become an umbrella term that includes different perspectives in the era where the symbolic boundaries of the human have been ultimately challenged. And rethinking of our coexistence with non-human life forms is highly needed. By working with the living beings, plants or animals, artists gain an opportunity to reflect on the subject-object continuum from different perspectives. While some artists still consider them rather as objects for investigation, others are moving forward and distinguish them as their partners or collaborators. Within this paper, the focus is made on the analysis of pieces by two artists, Olga Kiselova and Sasha S+T+ARTS. They both work collaboratively with the scientists. Just to name a few, it's a National Institute of Agronomy Research, it's French Laboratory of Neurobiology for Olga Kiselova, or for Sasha S+T+ARTS, for example, Rielich Group within Institute of Biology at Freie University Berlin, or Vrije Universiteit in Amsterdam. Again, it's just a few of them. They both do their research in a long-term way and dedicated either to trees, as in the case of Olga Kiselova and their communicative networks, or on fungi and their embeddedness in our environment by Sasha S+T+ARTS, respectively. Taking art and science field, the one that by its definition is based on the dialogue and the interaction between different actors, as a prominent ground for discussion, the following question are raised. How does new ontological understanding of the world from the posthumanist perspective inform the field of art and science collaboration? Of course, the description of the works about which I will be talking can also take 2 times more than time that I have right now, so I just hope you will be able to follow this very short version of the description. Following Francesca Ferrando, posthumanism is defined by 3 aspects: posthumanism, postdualism, and postanthropocentrism. Posthumanism implies a rejection of classical humanism, that is, a universal and generalized understanding of men in favor of a plurality of connotations of nature and human capabilities. Postanthropocentrism seeks to deconstruct a centrality of human figure, and postdualism seeks to reject the rigid way of identity represented in the symbolic dualistic categories. So the prefix post does not necessarily indicate the end of human as species. It refers to all the historical and non-historical experiences of non-human others and moves our attention to what for centuries was excluded or was subjected to repression. And the definition of the subject is a first one out of the ontological assumptions for criticism and reorientation. Current re-evaluation leads to further exploration of the boundaries with the implicit notion that living can be attributed equally to human and non-human beings, or in a broader spectrum of more than human forms of existence. Olga Kiselova focuses within this trend of her artistic pieces attention on trees, starting from the elm of Biscarrosse, then Japanese cedars or kauri trees in New Zealand. She was interested in establishing the missing connection among trees of the related species and facilitating their communication over the continents through specifically developed technological network, so to help them survive. Devices that measure, among others, volatile organic compounds or barrel thickness, actually one of the basic characteristics to be captured for studying plants, have been connected through internet and thus could pass over the signals on the distance, what is not possible on biological level without such technological mediation. The shift of the focus from tree-human to tree-tree communication, at my point of view, is a sign of putting away pre-described hierarchies and focuses on the sentience of trees at the same level of importance as the human one. Sasha S+T+ARTS, in her own words, focuses primarily on the posthuman condition that supposes humans are not masters of the world, but rather their existence and actions are elements of a much wider and complicated ecosystem. Since the beginning of 2010s, she has been working with different biological matters as fungi in MyConnect, plants in symbiome installation, or bacteria in installation inspiration. By addressing the above-mentioned non-humans and by building the artistic statement using biotechnological methods in tight connection to and with them, S++ARTS reveals interactions appearing between different living beings and the way they are framing up our environment. If previously objects were distributed over different ontological regions and logical classes, within these new tendencies that I'm referring to, these heterogeneous entities find themselves on the same ontological plane. They are all actors equal in their ability to act and interact, in which it is determined what they are and what they will be. Posthuman subject are a work in progress. In its critique of dichotomy between human and non-human, posthumanism offers to embrace relationally as interconnected actants in an open and responded context, which is also constantly shifting. The relational dimension became the crucial point in defining posthumanist ontology. Rosie Braidotti described posthuman subject as, quote, relational subjects constituted in and by multiplicity, that is to say, a subject that works across differences and are also internally differentiated but still grounded and accountable. She emphasized their embedded and embodied aspect. As a result, further ontological characteristics are formed. We are not existing in the dialectical world. Humans are not the dualistic entities. They are rather a materially embedded subject in process that are disseminated within the networks of relation with forces, entities, and encounters. And as we can understand, it's not only about human, but non-human, so all entities within this ontological formation. Thus, the world is built on the interconnectedness and multispecies entanglements. We, both human and non-human, are not alone and separated. We are connected, embedded, and entangled. I will be jumping a bit over the slides. I will get back to others. So taking this kind of a theoretical basis, Sasha S++ARTS is willing to reveal interweavings with the help of mycelium and fungi, trying to reflect on the ways fungal underground networks could inform humans and how this learning process can be mediated and shaped by technologies. In general, how fungal ontologies could help humans practice multi-species survival through practice of inclusion and caring. Within Mycomythologies series, the artists tried to make this connection perceptible to viewers with the help of visual and audio tools. The entanglement presented is intended to let us think about what kind of networks we are. The installation, Mycomythologies Rupture, serves as a proof of the biotechnological connection in planetary life. The screens are linked with each other, and any change in the system, the way nutrients are distributed and taken out of it, causes changes in video and audio representation. While in Mycomythologies patterning, fungal structure becomes a great metaphor for the interconnected walls. Here, the human microbiome reveals the influence one actor could have on another. Within the development of Eden project by Olga Kiselova, we can follow how trees reveals themselves as a post-human subject, embodied and embedded, connected to other entities and being part of a broader network. That manifests itself by relations that appear within and constitute it, for example, by Chateaubriand cedar or Japanese cedars. The different showcases, so of the installation, either in Ichiguzu Tsunami Contemporary Art Triennale or also at the Vraux Biennale, presents trees as ecologically interlinked beings with multiple connections as an equal partner. Art this way expresses more reason to understand relations we are entangled in, to take more agency into shaping the world. Acknowledging non-human beings and putting them at the same ontological level, including admitting the value of their experience as well, can open up the horizons for further scientific and artistic research. For example, the research on plant intelligence could be considered as a point in science to promote a new attitude towards plants. They are not considered anymore as a passive objects, and they are sentient beings with adaptive behavior, communication possibilities, intelligence, and memory, and we can follow that this development is happening within the last 10 years in the scientific field. Sasha S++ARTS started to work with fungi and investigates with scientists their ability to capture and pass signals back in 2012. And in Mycomythologies series that has been started at the beginning of 2020, we can see that they are already considered as a full participants of the storytelling creation as well as the narrative transmissions to the viewer at the exhibition space. They're not the objects to be observed, but rather subjects with their own perspectives, the holders of their own knowledge to be learned from. And this collaboration with non-humans is fueled by technological mediation, and not only with advanced software, but even the simple microscope facilitated such interaction while just making visible something that is hidden from our eyes. Olga Kiselova, in the development of Eden projects, gives voices to trees. First of all, metaphorically, of course, creates the digital representation of what can be grasped by our senses. The application presented at Fro Biennale in 2019 suggested to have a glimpse in the world of trees. It did not provide a clear transcription of a tree speech, but rather led the visitors to experience it, first of all, temporally, as we know that trees transmitting the signals in such a different level from our human experience. And another very important part of the Eden project was the development of the network, the shift that was collecting all the case studies that has some of them, and this interactive program indicates and unites the actors in the network, more precisely trees, connected to the system through sensors and captures, gathers the information and later serves as a source for all visual displays. By creating this network connection, the artists and the scientists were interested in allowing the trees to communicate despite the distance, highlighting that it is possible to understand and receive the communication of a tree is one thing, to consider that it can be transmitted and appreciated by one of its congenres living on a different continent is another. Trees are considered within the Eden project not only as silent witnesses, but also as the actors who can transmit their knowledge further at some point, learn from it. So it became clear for the artists that we can learn from the trees of fungi something that is not accessible to learn in any other way. They are not object of studies, but rather our partners. Thus, we can acknowledge that thinking and the capacity to produce knowledge is not exclusive prerogative of humans alone, but it's distributed across all living matter and throughout self-organizing technological networks. And this is one of the crucial elements of posthuman convergence framed by Rosie Braidotti. As it has been already seen, living organisms cannot be grasped without their networks of entanglements. The posthumanism and non-anthropocentric model is associated not only with the decentering of the human, but also with the decentering of subject position as such. It shifts the focus through the production of subjectivity, but embedded and processful characteristics. And maybe here it can be also helpful to elaborate this the statement of the disappearance of the subject through the notion of symbiosis and how it reveals itself within the humanity field. We were beginning already today a lot what symbiosis is from the biological sense, but we can, the proper symbiosis already for Margulis is a result of long-term coexistence, and it always leads to the organic fusion of dissimilar organism into a new whole. So symbiotic assemblages, the term already used in humanities, are more like knots of diverse interactive relatings in dynamic complex system. They are not pre-existing individual entities, but manifest themselves through interactive becoming. So the first case of addressing to fungi in S++ARTS work was the installation MyConnect, a symbiotic interspecies connector that questions anthropocentric division of nature-human technology. Within the stand capsule developed the signals and impulses create a feedback loop by the means of biological and technological mediation that lets visitors experience the symbiotic interdependence between their bodies and fungal mycelium in a very tangible manner. The electrical feedback in fungi that could be measured and traced in the real time and allow the viewers to have a proper interactive experience. Being one of the most prevalent life forms and known for building relationship with plants, fungi is a great example to reflect on interconnections that are inscribed in our nature. No matter that they are part of human life, they are embedded in our lives, even though they are unseen, covered by soil, and having a small scale in comparison to human environment. based on the examples I provided you earlier, it's important to highlight the collaborative aspect of the work, the collaborative work in the intersection of art, science, and technology, while this approach can reach beyond and let us think more on the way our world is constructed and how everything is linked within. How can we live together? How can we acknowledge our mutual existence, the connection existing in our network, society, and world? By talking on the posthuman subject and its ontological state, but more precisely by following the way we are interacting with non-humans within the practice of selected artists, what their connections to human are, we can trace the movement towards rethinking the role of humans and non-humans and acknowledging those by whom we are surrounded. Thus, artists do not formulate their own notion of a posthuman subject, but rather they demonstrate another approach and attitude towards non-humans to consider the later trees of fungi, in our case, as partners, not to build hierarchies because the equality of the partners and to acknowledge their knowledge we can learn from. The emphasis on relation appearing among subjects and in the system as a whole, the tendency to make these interconnections explicit are the major posthumanist categories the artist referred to. Thus, I suggest to consider approaches proposed by Olga Kiselova and Sasha Sapachal as an indicator of change that could lead us to transformation of a purely anthropocentric perspective into new and more inclusive one, and hopefully later on to refuse this purely anthropocentric one in general. By not prioritizing one category over another, human over non-human or vice versa, and opening up such a perspective to the scientific community while working collaboratively and to the other audience, wider audience, at exhibitions or art festivals, we are going toward a new post-human subject. Thank you for your attention.
Merci.